And here we go. Good morning, guys. As you log in, I see some numbers starting to tick up. Go ahead and send me a message, right? Send me a comment. Let me know you're here. Grab my notes, my roll sheet. Good morning, Liz, Kim. Good morning, Luis Martinez, Maria. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back from Labor Day. Kind of a week off, at least for us, kinda. Julio, Aldo, good morning. I forgot to do my split screen because I don't necessarily need it, but you might want to open up your canvas. Also remember that I will be giving you your questions, so make sure you have something to write with. Levi, good morning. Isaiah, Jasmine, good morning, good morning, good morning. Diego, hopefully you guys had a good weekend. Staying out of the smoke, hopefully. We got 10, so we still got a little ways to go. So just kind of sit tight. We should have some more people coming in any moment here. Again, while we're waiting, good time to ask any questions you have. So if you have a question about class or about an assignment, or anything kind of pertinent, go ahead and send me a comment now. Or always you could email me as well. That's not an issue. Let's wait a couple more minutes here, although the numbers are starting to pick up a little bit. Esmeralda, good morning. Roman, hi. Elena, good morning. Have I graded all the assignments? I think there are a couple people that had some issues. Osvaldo, I think you might be one of them, if I remember correctly. I think everything is graded off the top of my head. I don't know, but email me personally, Osvaldo, and I'll look at your case. But yeah, for the most part, guys, just so you know, typically what I'm trying to do, I mean, it kind of takes us a while to get into the groove a little bit. What I'm going to try to do is go through everything every Thursday, right? So don't, and that just kind of depends. I have a Tuesday night class. So sometimes if Tuesday night, if I'm still out here, I don't really have anything to do. Maybe the kids are already in bed, whatever. I might go through some Monday stuff on Tuesday, but typically what I think I'm going to do is probably just wait till Thursday morning and go through all of it for the entire week and then get grades posted. But for the most part, I mean, there may be one or two people that I haven't graded everything just because there are some people who had technical issues, like they uploaded their document but didn't come in right or something like that. Whatever each person was. But by and large, most of the grades are pretty much done, right? So you can for the most part, I mean, your grade is like real time for the most part, right? Real time. So a couple more minutes. And again, people who are logging in, thank you for saying good morning. So I know you're here. I'm kind of taking roll as I'm talking. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and fire away right now as we're kind of waiting for the last few people to log in. And then we'll get going on our lecture. I'll give you your lecture question, and then obviously we'll be done for the day. So let me know if you have any questions. We're just going to sit tight for about another couple minutes. It's 8:04. We'll give everyone another couple minutes, and then we'll get going on our lecture. Good morning. Good morning. Benjamin, good morning. One more minute. One more minute. We'll get rolling at 8:06. Can everyone hear me? I hope. I hope the sound is good. Aldo, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, guys. Okay, good. Okay, let's get rolling. All right. So today's lecture topic is probably, I would love to spend more time on it, but the bottom line is finances aren't necessarily a part of health other than, you need to be financially healthy. But there are a couple things that you could start doing right now to make your life, good morning, Jocelyn, to make your life infinitely better down the road. And the reason why I say that is because you guys have time, right? And someone who, like me, in my mid 40s, although I do still have time, I don't have the amount of time that you guys have. You guys have a ton of time, and time is a massive, massive factor in getting your finances right. So the idea of the lecture today, obviously it ties into stress because we can avoid financial stress. We can avoid stress by just being financially sound. But there's also a couple of tools that you could use that will significantly help anyone who's trying to do things kind of right financially, right? But like I said, taking advantage of these things now is absolutely crucial for all of you. So let's start with the first and foremost, the best way to avoid financial stress, and that's just staying out of debt, right? Avoiding debt at all costs. And it doesn't matter what kind of debt we're talking about. If you're operating in a net negative, and it doesn't necessarily mean just credit. I mean, although credit is a big part of it, like, getting a car that you can barely afford or can't afford, getting a credit card and charging things that you can't afford with the money that you have in your checking account. Those are lines of credit that will ultimately take you down. But also just living a lifestyle that you can't afford. For some of you, this includes your phone. Having the top of the line iPhone, having the top of the line device, whatever it is. The fact of the matter is there has to be a little bit of delayed gratification for you to really enjoy the spoils of good finances. There are very few people that can live a lavish lifestyle from a very young age and all the way through adulthood, and splurge and splurge and splurge and be financially fine through that whole time. I mean, most people will find some type of financial struggle. So the most important thing you can do to not have a lot of financial stress is just to avoid debt. But with that said, the bottom line is you have to grow your money, right? There's a little thing called inflation. And inflation, it simply put, is this. When I was your age, when I was roughly 18, a candy bar was probably around 65 cents, 75 cents. Nowadays, you walk into a 7-Eleven and the candy bars are $1.25, right? The dollar you have now, if you were to take a dollar and you were to set aside and say, I'm going to spend this dollar 20 years from now, I want this dollar for 20 years from now, that dollar in 20 years will not be worth a dollar. As a matter of fact, it'll most likely be worth significantly less, up to 25% less, right? So the bottom line is you have to be, there's a couple things you have to do, but most significantly, you need to grow your money. So how do you grow your money? How do you avoid debt? And how do you grow your money? How do you grow your personal net worth? You are now an institution. You view yourself now as not only John or Nathan or Jose or whoever it is, right? Or Kimberly. You're not just that person anymore. You are that person plus you as a kind of like an institution, you as an entity that needs to grow, right? That's how you got to start looking at this, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pay yourself. That's the very first thing you do. Every check that you get deposited into your checking account, or every check that you pick up, or every time you get those tips, however you get paid, the ideal number is 20%. It doesn't have to be 20%. It can be 5%. It can be 2%. It can be 10%. That money needs to go into an account that you don't touch every single time you get paid. Why? Well, let me tell you why. The first thing they tell you when you're learning how to be a contractor, when you're learning contract law, let's say you want to be a builder, or you want to be an electrician or whatever, you're going to be a contractor that goes out, you make agreements with people to do work, specific scopes of work, right? So the first thing you do is you calculate all your material costs. You calculate all your labor costs, right? And then you add anywhere from 10 to 20%, right? And why? Why is there an automatic 10 to 20% lump sum right on top of those costs? Because your business has to grow, right? The idea that you're going to operate at cost and just make enough to get by to the next job does not grow a business. What grows a business is you've calculated all your costs, materials, and there's upcharge in that, and labor, and there's upcharge in that labor for your time, all of those things. And then you add that extra 10 to 20%. Why? Because the business has to grow. So that concept is now personalized for you. Now it's, okay, me, Nathaniel Brown, or me, Jasmine, or me, Andre, I need to grow. So when I get paid, I'm going to take this 10, 20% and I'm going to put it in an account that I don't touch. Now, there's a caveat there, and I tell people this all the time. Here's what I would do. I would go, if you bank at Chase, go over to Rabobank, or if you bank at Community Bank of Santa Maria, go over to Chase. Start an account with them. Have that money directly deposited so you don't even see it. It comes right out of your check. It goes into that other account. That's not the normal account that you work in and out of, have no access to it. If they give you a card, take that card, put it in your closet, forget that you have it. Just let that money sit there, right? Let it be money that you don't touch, right? And you're going to find out, especially now during coronavirus time, how many people have not done that, right? So not only good for your growth over time, but it's good for times like now, where maybe another pandemic comes, a massive earthquake, and no one can go to work, or whatever it is, natural disaster, something happens and you can't work. You don't have your source of income anymore. You have a little something in the coffers for later down the road. Okay, so number one, outside of obviously avoiding debt, is pay yourself. Pay yourself first. Okay. Number two, invest. Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that 20%. Right. So let's say you bank at Wells Fargo. You're going to go over to Chase. You're going to take that 20%. You're going to have that direct deposited over to Chase. And then once you got about, I don't know, maybe $1,000, I want you to walk into Chase and tell them you want to open up an IRA, right? An IRA or a Roth IRA or a mutual fund or a bond. It doesn't matter. Okay, it does not matter. Or you can call an investment company that helps you choose a portfolio, and you're going to have that money come out of Chase. Why? Because you have to grow your money. Again, we are talking about inflation. Money sitting in many cases is money lost, right? So take that 20%, take 5% of that, put it into a Roth IRA or an IRA. Okay, by IRA, I mean IRA, which is an acronym for an individual retirement account. A Roth IRA is only different that in the sense that it too is an individual retirement account. The only difference is you now are paying taxes on the way in instead of paying taxes on the way out. But again, talking to someone at your bank, wherever you bank, will walk you through that, and they'll help you make a decision that works for you. But investing that money is crucial. Okay. Number 3, I would encourage all of you to do this, and I would encourage you to do it almost as soon as possible. And that would be to start a business, right? And some of you are like, huh? You don't just start businesses. Yeah, you do. And you absolutely can. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from starting a business today, literally right now. It can be Nathan's lawn mowing service. It can be Liz's dog walking service. I actually have there's a lady that works in our department. For years, she had a business. She made barrettes. She made little matching barrettes. She would decorate them and bows for like girls softball teams and soccer teams. So all the girls had all the same cute bow. She was making like $2,500 a month just making bows. I'm not telling you to go mow lawns for the money. What I'm telling you to do is to create tax shelters for yourself down the road. Okay. And ultimately that's what a business does. What a business allows you to do is it allows you to write off your phone, your mileage, your gas, even some of your food and entertainment. Yes, you can write off dinner and movies with your girlfriend or with your husband or your boyfriend or whatever. That can be written off during tax time. There are a number of laws around that. There are a number of different situations, but by and large, every year when I file my taxes, I do what I call a Schedule C because I own a business. I do a Schedule C, and all a Schedule C is in addition to the regular tax form that we all do. There's another sheet where you list all of your expenses for your business, all of the gross profit you made from the business, and then that sheet deciphers how much you netted from that business. And the bottom line is you don't have to net positive. You can net negative. Right? You can definitely net negative. I've known people who've netted negative on their businesses for years and years and years. But the good thing is you are creating a ton of tax shelter for yourself. Office space, clothes, you go get a new pair of boots and you own a landscape business. Boom, boots, that's uniform, right? You go to the post office, you buy some envelopes and stamps for Christmas time because you're mailing out Christmas cards. Boom, write off, right? Office supplies. They're an excellent way to help you keep Uncle Sam out of your pockets, right? And as we know, especially because we live in California, Uncle Sam is in our pockets enough as it is. Okay. Pay yourself first, ideally 20%. Invest now, right now. And I'll talk a little bit more about that before we're done. Start a business if possible. Number 4, evaluate your finances, right? For a couple of reasons. Number 1, many of you would probably be in a better situation if you weren't claimed on your parents' income tax return. I know mom and dad probably don't want to hear that because they get paid for having you, right? You get, I think, $2,000 a kid from the federal government when you file taxes. Like, just boom, there's $2,000 in credit right there because you have a kid per kid. And a lot of times the bottom line is you still live at home, you're on your parents' medical, so on and so forth. But this is worth an evaluation for most of you because, look, you're in school. Most of you probably have a basic plan to go to a 4-year, get some type of degree, and enter some type of profession, right? So when I say evaluate your finances, not only do I want you to evaluate like how much you have coming in and how much your gas is per month. Yeah, that's all great. But the bottom line is you fill up every week, you kind of know, right? And you've already manipulated money enough and worked with your checking and banking accounts enough to know when you need money for the gas bill that's coming up or your mortgage or whatever. I'm not necessarily talking about those monthly expenditures. What I'm talking about is how many of you have evaluated the cost of your degree, right? I know for a lot of you, Hancock is free, but it's not going to be free after Hancock. More significantly, how much are you going to make in that industry? Where are you going to go to school for that degree? Is it going to be Fresno? Are you going to live in Clovis, or are you going to live in LA? You want to go to San Diego State? You want to go live in Pacific Beach? Or do you want to go to Sac State? Or how about San Jose State, which happens to be probably one of the most expensive areas in the country, let alone the state, right? The bottom line is evaluating how much it's going to cost might give you a reason to have this conversation with your parents about maybe not being claimed on their income tax return. And what I mean by that, when you file for financial aid, they give you an EFC number, right? And EFC stands for an expected family contribution. In other words, they know you don't make any money, right? They know your parents do. So they're going to evaluate your parents' income and determine how much financial aid you deserve. If you're off your parents' income tax return, then the only finances they can evaluate are yours, right? They're yours. So showing someone who's young, someone who's not making a lot, showing that income, my guess is many of you could possibly qualify for an EFC number that's really low. In other words, expected family contribution of 0. If you have an expected family contribution of 0, you're going to go to school for free for the most part. The higher the number gets, the more money they anticipate your family has to give to you, the less amount of free money that you're going to get from the government. That's just how that simply works. So evaluate your finances. Go to the Department of Labor Statistics. How much does a nurse make? How much does this make? How much does this make? I'm going in the field of recreation and leisure and travel. What does a travel agent make, or someone who works at a hotel make? Like, evaluate this a little bit. Put together a rough plan. I mean, obviously, I don't expect you to have the rest of your life figured out just by, sitting down for an hour or two and evaluating, but that's a good thing to do. Just like literally write it all out. How much do you have now? How much do you plan on making in the near future if you stay with your current job? Where can you cut back? What are some upcoming things that you have to pay for? How much is going to cost to live here and there? How much financial aid are you going to get? Like, evaluate these numbers. Look at these numbers. Just get a good overall picture of your financial health over the next couple of years is a good thing to do. It's a good exercise. Very good exercise. Just have the conversation with your parents. Hey, if I do go to Fresno State, what do you think it's going to cost? What do you think you're going to be able to give me? But what kind of numbers am I going to need to get from financial aid? Like, just have these conversations with yourself, have them with the people that are helping you out, have them with your counselors and people who are helping plan your financial future. Evaluate is really important. Okay, so pay yourself first, right? Always pay yourself that 10-20%. Set it aside. Don't touch it. Okay. Invest. Take a small portion of that 20%, that 10%, 2-5%. Invest it. Get an individual retirement account. Get a mutual fund. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Just start putting money away. Okay. Start a business if possible. Right. Hide as much money as you can from the government. That's just the lesson, right? That's just it. The bottom line is, especially in California, we pay out of the ass, excuse my language, for everything. For everything. The dollars that you earn are taxed over and over and over again. Every time there is money transaction, you're paying for that, right? And again, a business legally allows for you to keep some of that money based on your expenditures, based on those transactions. Instead of giving money away, you're now keeping some of that money. Evaluate your finances, right? Evaluate. Okay. And then finally, number 5, and I know this may seem really, really far away from some of you. It hasn't even crossed your mind yet. And I know how you feel. I used to feel the same way. But number 5 is buy a home, right? Buy a home as soon as possible, right? Even if it's a home that in an area that you don't want to live in, right? A part of the state or a part of the county or part of the city that you don't really have plans on being in. The bottom line is, a lot of people, most people don't buy their dream home the first time around. They buy like a starter house. They find something that allows them to get into the market. And let me tell you why. For really 2 reasons. The first one being buying a home will ultimately give you more purchasing power, right? Which piggybacks off the other reason why you need to buy a home, and that's a little term called equity, right? Equity. EQUITY, equity. So when you buy a home, and some of you are thinking, I'm not even close to that. You're closer than you think, right? Especially if you have no debt. Right. You're closer than you think. So ultimately, when you qualify to buy a home, they look at a couple of things, right? They look at your debt to income ratio on the front end and the back end, right? And they also look at other things like your credit score and things of that nature. They're looking to see if you're a qualified buyer, but ultimately it's hinged upon your debt to income ratio. In other words, the front end of debt to income ratio is how much credit. Hold on, I'll answer that question in a minute. What if you plan to move? And I don't necessarily know what you mean by that. So Aldo, if you can explain that. What do you mean? What if you plan to move? So your front end debt to income ratio is all of the credit that you owe, all the credit lines that you've taken out. So if you have a car payment, if you have an existing mortgage, if you have credit cards, they're going to minus that. And then the back debt to income ratio is not only all your credit card debt, your car payment, all of that kind of stuff, not phones and water bills and stuff like that. We're talking about lines of credit that you've opened up that are in your name, school loans, credit card loans, car loans, all of those. And then they're also going to add in the back end. And the back end of that is your mortgage, right? So if you want a mortgage for a $300,000 home, and let's say the mortgage is $1,500 a month, they're going to take your credit card debt, your car payment, let's say that's $500, and they're going to take, that's the front end, and then they're going to take the back end, which is the mortgage, which is $1,500. They're going to combine those. Okay, here's your debt, $2,000 a month. How does that compare to your income? What percentage of this 2,000 is your income, right? So, or how does that compare to your income? And most of the time, they don't want it to exceed about 45%, right? So, what do I mean by that? And I'm just throwing these numbers out here. You would have to go online to look at what the rates are and mortgage calculators and all that kind of stuff. If all of your debt was 2,000, and let's say it's not supposed to exceed 45%, then you would probably need to make over 4,000. That's all I'm saying, right? A month, right? But let's not get lost in the weeds with numbers, right? The bottom line is this: when you buy a home, every time you pay your mortgage, you're paying yourself. I know that sounds counterintuitive because you're not writing the check to yourself, right? But you are writing a check, and every time you write that check, a little money off the top goes off. Every month, boom, you're chipping away at the principal, right? So what do I mean by that? I bought my first home in 2010, okay, here in Santa Maria. When the market, for you guys probably won't know this, but in 2000, Aldo, I'll answer your question in a minute. I see your question. In 2010, the housing market kind of crashed, right? So in this area in particular, babe, close the door. Nope, close the door. I'm in class. Give me 1 minute. Gia, close the door. Okay, so in 2010, sorry. So in 2010, the housing market in California, all over the country, particularly on the Central Coast, the housing market was super low. So I ended up buying a home in Santa Maria for roughly, I think it listed at 215, or no, we closed at 215. I put down $7,000, so I financed $207,000, right? I don't remember what my mortgage was, maybe like $1,500, $1,300. We moved in 2015, 2016, and at that point, the housing market had gone back up. So if I remember the numbers correctly, we listed our house at $360. We settled for roughly $345, $350, but I didn't owe $207. I owed $175. Right? So in that 5 years, not only had I paid down my principal and gained value in my house by paying down my principal, the market picked up. So that gap, that 75,000, it was, it'd be $75,000. That $75,000 gap was my equity. Okay, so in 5 years, I made 75 grand, right? So most of you, you're lucky to make that in 2 years, in 3 years, actively. In other words, going to your job 40 hours a week, maybe even working overtime to make $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year over 2 years. Maybe you make that money. This is passive. In other words, this wasn't my job. This was me just paying my bills, and I'm gaining net worth as I pay my bills. There are very few situations where you can make 75 grand in 3-4 years passively, right? Homes and properties are probably the surefire way in America to become wealthy. Again, you gain equity, and here's the good thing you can do with equity. You can do what we did. We use that equity to buy a bigger home, right? We use that equity to get to the house that we knew we wanted from the start, but we couldn't afford at first. And here's the other thing you can do with equity. You can actually borrow against it. In other words, you can have your house assessed. They'll come out. They'll say, okay, your house is worth $300,000. You owe $200,000 on your mortgage. We're going to give you $90,000 worth of equity. You can take that $90,000 and do whatever you want with it. You can go buy another property if you want, or put a down payment on another property if you want. You can take your cars and roll them into that. Now your cars are tax deductible, right? Because an equity line of credit is technically a real estate loan. And if it's a real estate loan, those are tax deductible. So you just get more flexibility when you're buying a home. You get a higher potential of growth when you buy a home. Yeah. Is it cheap? No. Do you have to have money to put down? Yeah. But you're setting money aside, right? Setting money aside. You putting that 20% aside, right? That's the magic number. You should be looking to put every $5 you get, you put $1 in the bank. Done deal, right? So all those questions. What if you plan to move within 5 years or a little more? Is it still worth buying? Well, look, dude, that's a market play. For the most part, when you buy a home, if you're in the home for a long period of time, it's a winner. I mean, not everyone is like that, but for the most part, if you live in your house for 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to come across a time where you can sell that home for more than what you bought it for. And if you've been paying your mortgage on time, your equity will be greater than the gap between the two buying prices. Does that make sense? So if you bought a home for $200 and you sell it for $300, but during that 10 years you've been paying off your mortgage, you're going to walk away with more than $100,000 in equity. Will that happen inside of 5 years? Who knows, dude? I can't tell you that, to be completely honest with you, Aldo. The world's a little crazy right now. We're just giving people money right now. Eventually that's going to come and punch us in the face. California loves to give things away for free. For people, for homeless people, immigrants, people who live beneath a certain financial line. A lot of people get a lot of services for free. So it's hard to say what the future is going to be. However, with all that said, the housing market is still really, really strong right now. I know that the home 2 houses down from me, when they sold it last month, was on the market for 23 hours. 23 hours, and that home sold just like that. Rent in Santa Maria, from what I hear, 1 bedroom on average is probably going to be around $650 to $800 a month for 1 room. Typically, when rent prices are really high, real estate prices are also really high as well. Or at least what they call a seller's market, right? So, Aldo, I think the best thing to do is to get in a home as soon as you can. Okay, but obviously everyone's financial situation is different, and that decision is yours, right? Not mine. Okay, here's your question of the day. I want you to go online and Google term compound interest. Okay, Google the term compound interest, right? And then all you have to do is explain it. So explain the term compound interest. Okay. Financial stress. How do you avoid financial stress? Number 1, avoid debt. Number 2, pay yourself first. Number 3, invest. Number 4, evaluate, right? Evaluate. Number 5, business. Number 6, buy a home. Okay. Again, assignment. Google the term compound interest. Explain it, right? Explain the term compound interest. Okay, guys. Make sure Wednesday you have your assignment. And I will see you again next Monday. Deuces out.